Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome to another video. In this video we're going to be talking about bows. And we're going to do a bit of theory crafting. Normally I would do this by myself, but just kind of think of a couple of different builds, different like ability combos, things like that, and put it all together and see if I can make something happen. I think with the changes coming to bows in the next patch, we could actually see them come actually into meta, GVG and how we get meta, which could be awesome. And there's no real defined like armor set for a bow at the moment, so I'm going to be trying to figure some stuff out. If you guys have got any other ideas that I don't come across, please feel free to let me know. But first of all, let's actually go over the changes. Firstly, we have explosive arrows. Gets now activated every time an arrow hits an enemy. Can now also be activated by your abilities. While active, each hit of multi-shot triggers an explosion. Up to 8 shots now rather than 5. The damage is 21 from 26. So I believe it's actually not a nerf in total damage, but it is a fairly significant sort of lower on the damage. Buff duration, quality of life thing, especially since there's extra shots now. Cooldown 20 seconds from 15. I think it was necessary with the amount of damage you can put out, and energy cost 11 to 12, which is negligible really. Speed shot. The buff now also increases attack speed, and move speed increased by 33%. 20% rather than 33%. So I imagine the attack speed matches, which means that with Hunter Jacket with the attack speed passive on a Whispering Bow is going to just hit fast and hard. The only problem with that is Speed Shot is still only a 11 meter range, I believe, and the Whispering Bow has like an 18 meter auto attack. So you're not going to be able to actually use it on the person you're attacking. Ray of Light, it can now hit multiple enemies, which is a massive change. It's also had a radius increase, which is just going to be such a nice quality of life change for bows. Honestly think it could be a viable GVG W ability as well. But let's go back to bows and let's talk about different builds. So firstly, I want to talk about Whispering Bow. I honestly think Whispering Bow has the potential to be GVG meta now. With the buffs, I think it's just going to be even stronger. The reason I say that is because it has the synergy with Undead Arrows and Explosive Arrows. It's going to have your next 5 auto attacks, your next 8 auto attacks, sorry, deal X amount of damage to enemies and enemies in that radius. And you're going to have Undead Arrows, which means you're just going to be able to keep that damage up for a little bit longer. It's going to be a little bit less bursty, but a lot more consistent. And I think even that in itself is quite a nice change for Whispering Bow. You also have Ray of Light. Obviously, I don't have it unlocked at the moment. You have Ray of Light, which is a big hitting ability, roots them for a decent amount of time on a 10-second cooldown. I think this in itself could actually be really good with Whispering Bow. You kind of drop it down, use the root if you get good at aiming it, and then you can kind of kite melee bruisers, things like that. I think it could be really, really nice. Even using that on a clothy paired up with the Undead Arrows, I think could be really, really strong. So that's kind of one of the setups. You also have the Q abilities. Multi-shot I don't actually think is going to be the worst thing in the world, especially when you pair it with explosive arrows and multi-shot now detonating them explosive arrows. It's like if you hit 5 people, it's going to hit all 5 with the explosive arrows, and they'll kind of shotgun off each other as well. You have Deadly Shot, which in itself pretty high base damage ability. Apologies about that. My phone just gone off. You have Deadly Shot, which in itself is a high damage ability, paired with the fact that it also has the cast speed thing built in every shot, up to 4 times. So eventually you have like a 20% cast time ability, which is like a 0.3 second cast time, which is just crazy. So if you keep spamming that, you don't need like a Scholar Robe or anything like that to synergize with it. It's going to be just really strong by itself. Then you have Poison Arrow. Honestly, don't think this is GVG viable. It just doesn't do enough like total damage or any like damage worth talking about. For ganking, it does its job. It's really nice. But for GVGs, I don't think that's where it's going to be. Speed Shot is currently at 11 meter range and is going to have the extra 20%, I believe, attack speed, which means you would have to Speed Shot a tank to be able to get that increased attack speed on a clothy, which is going to be a little fiddly to do, but still potential. So I think all of the W's have great value right now. All of the Q's have great value for what they do. Poison Arrow definitely good for ganking, not really good for much else. Multi-Shot and Deadly Shot going to be competing in like GVG scenarios, and then the E on Whispering Bow with the attack speed passive is going to be solid. I'll talk about builds and stuff like that in a minute. Boa Baden. Now, Boa Baden was talking about receiving a little bit of a nerf. I don't know if that came in. But honestly, you could run Boa Baden running either multi-shot or deadly shot with like a Scholar Robe and explosive arrows. Now, the reason I say it's important to run a Scholar Robe with Boa Baden if you're running deadly shot is because you need more cast speed to try and use up all of these explosive arrows on your deadly shots. If you can do that, you're going to be hitting so hard with every single shot, up to 8 shots. And if you can get that off in the Scholar duration, you're going to be doing so much damage. It's so much burst, paired with the fact that you can kind of pair a Raging Storm on top. Again, Raging Storm also synergizes really nicely with Rare Light. You can kind of route them into the Raging Storm. So I think there's definitely so much potential with Boa Bane as well. Wouldn't surprise me to see that in GVGs. Now, here's one that might surprise a couple of people. Wailing Bow. Now, the reason I say Wailing Bow is honestly because I think the Explosive Arrows Demon Arrow combo is going to do so much damage to anybody pushing a choke. You can almost single-handedly hold a choke with this because you're going to do so much damage as every person it hits is going to use an Explosive Arrow charge, which will like AoE around them, and it's just, you're going to able to one-shot like backliners. If it hits all 5 people and the Explosive Arrow shots as well, you're going to start one-shotting backliners. It's going to do so much damage. And the good thing here is they're all artifacts, so if you wanted to spec this up now like I am, you just level artifact. I think it's going to be good on some GVG maps, not others, so like the forest maps, where you have like the middle platform. I think it's going to be amazing because you ever push that choke point, you're going to get hit with a Wailing Bow that's going to hit hard. Things like the desert map, honestly can't see it being as strong, but I still think it can be used, maybe not as effectively. We'll have to see how this one pans out. This one, definitely like a Mage Robe, or maybe even a Druid Robe setup. Or obviously go for that Scholar Robe again for the deadly shot setup. And then you have Bow. I think if you're playing Bow, you kind of have to play Hunter just for the haste. It doesn't synergize nicely on cooldowns, but I think it's too strong not to use that setup. Again, Explosive Arrows, very good combo. You hit hard with it, and the fact that you get the resistances. So effectively, you attack like 6 times to get that resistance reduction on the target. Then you use Explosive Arrows, and every shot after that is going to hit them even harder. So I think that has a potential to just do massive amounts of damage. But again, I'm not really sure about that one at the moment. In terms of helmets, so I've thought about a couple. Mage Cowl for Whispering Bow is very obvious choice. Hits hard. It's just that extra little bit of damage that kind of helps with Whispering Bow burst. You have Druid Cowl, which is quite obvious. I don't think Bow can use Fiend Cowl if it's a Whispering. I think the other bows can, but I honestly think you're never going to be close enough someone as a Whispering to use Fiend Cowl effectively. So Druid Cowl kind of fits in the right spot in my mind that you could use it on your backline really, really safely. I think that's the best options, really. You can potentially use Leather running the Assassin Hood for Meditation, just to keep those Whispering Bow like sort of pressure up. Maybe even use Cleanse as well if it's something your group needs. But honestly, I think you should be fine with the cloth options. In terms of robe, in fact, we'll skip robe for now because I want to come back and talk about that in a minute. In terms of boots, I think the only viable boots really for it is either Assassin or Royals. Honestly, think it's down to preference a little bit more with bows just because you're quite long range anyway. Me personally, I love Assassin shoes, so I'll be leveling Assassin shoes and maybe have Royals as a backup. Oh, in terms of robes, jackets, whatever, I honestly think so. You have 2 options in the leather option. First one is Hunter Jacket. The haste with Whispering Bow does a lot of damage, nice low cooldown. It's really consistent, and it does do a ton of damage as well. But it's very bursty. You have 8 seconds to do as much damage as you can. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's kind of all done then. You then have Royal Jacket, which does less burst on a higher cooldown, but has the cooldown modifier in it as well, which means you can keep up Whispering for a lot longer, which gives you a longer like sort of damage period or poke period, which again I think has purpose in different points. And then talking about the robes, you have the Mage robe, which I really like, especially if you're running like Baden or Wailing, because Berserker, you can turn on someone with a Wailing. Like if you're low health, you turn on a group with a Wailing, hit 4 people, that back one is dead, 100%. It hits so hard. You have Cleric, which is obviously really solid if you're running like Wailing, Baden, or the normal bow. Because you're a little bit further forward, you probably are going to get hit. Everlasting Spirit's a really consistent option. Scholar Robe, the increased cast speed, the energy cost reduction on that deadly shot, you're going to be able to fire them off so quickly, paired up with the explosive arrow, you're going to do a ton of damage. I think that's a viable option. Druid Robe, maybe. Honestly, I don't see it as much just because you're not going to be able to activate those abilities as easily. But yeah, so honestly, I think bows could come in next patch. This is kind of my thought process with them. I think Baden and Whispering is where my head's going to be at. Do really want to try Wailing though, so that's maybe another option. And yeah, so if you're going to be giving bows a go next patch, give me a shout what your build's going to be. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, all that normal stuff. And other than that, thanks for watching. Catch you later, guys.